What's up, folks, and welcome back to Dyce Reacts, where we are staying in London, England tonight. Oh yeah, we are going to be checking out how I found the American dream in Britain. Side checks one out. We ain't going to waste no more time. Just going to get right into it, folks. We're going to get right into it. Oh yeah.
Here's something that might blow your mind. I found the American dream in Britain. Not America. Britain, the place that Americans love to stereotype as some sort of socialist nightmare where bureaucrats control your every move and the government takes half your paycheck. Turns out that narrative is not just wrong, it's backwards. Picture this. It's 2019, I'm in the UK, and my back goes out to the point that I can't move with searing nerve pain. In America, this moment would trigger a familiar mental calculation. How bad is the pain really? Can I afford the ambulance ride? What about the emergency room visit? My deductible is $2,500. Do I have that in my checking account right now? But I'm in Britain now, so I go to the ER known as A&E. I spend 4 hours there. They run all kinds of tests to make sure it's not something more serious than a pinched nerve, and I'm fine. The bill? £0, 0 pence, not even a copay. This wasn't a charity case or an emergency Medicaid situation. This is just how healthcare works in Britain. For everyone, all the time. And here's the kicker, I wasn't even a British citizen yet. I was on the partner visa, but because I lived and worked in the UK and paid UK taxes, I had access to the National Health Service. Now, the numbers tell a story even better than I can. Americans spend an average of $12,914 per person on healthcare annually. Americans have worse health outcomes across almost every major metric. High infant mortality, lower life expectancy, higher rates of preventable deaths. We spend more than twice as much to die younger and sicker. And in America, around 45,000 people die annually just from lack of health insurance, according to a Harvard study. Medical bankruptcy affects 530,000 families every year in the US. Think about that. More than 500,000 families financially destroyed because someone got sick. When your health is held hostage by your employment status, when you stay in jobs you hate because you need the insurance, when you ration insulin because you can't afford it, that's not freedom. In Britain, I discovered what healthcare freedom looked like. It means the freedom to start my own business without worrying about health insurance, the freedom to take creative risks, to freelance, to pursue entrepreneurship. It means freedom from medical debt, from medical bankruptcy, and from dying because you're poor. But healthcare was just the beginning. Let's talk about education, specifically higher education and what it means for social mobility. I met a girl named Sarah in Leeds. She's 24, works part-time with the local bookshop, and is finishing her master's degree in environmental science at the University of Leeds. Her undergraduate degree cost her £9,250 per year in tuition fees, around $11,500. Her total debt for 5 years of higher education, including a master's degree and living expenses, is around £45,000. Compare that to America, where the average student loan debt can easily go over $100,000 for the equivalent. But here's the crucial difference. In Britain, you only start paying back student loans when you earn over $27,295 per year. And you pay back 9% of whatever you earn above that threshold. If you never earn enough, you never pay. The debt is forgiven after 30 years, regardless of how much you've paid back. Sarah.
Wow, that's very interesting. I did not know that. And you would think that the American society would have it way easier in terms of when it comes to the health situation and the debt situation. You would think that there would be more things in place to prevent people that are chasing degrees, to avoid being in debt so much. Because I've heard so many horror stories, I've seen so many horror story videos online, and some of it just, at first, I thought they were like exaggerating. But the more and more I looked at videos, did a little research myself, I'm finding out like it's horrible. It's not the American dream. It's a nightmare when you think about it. So there are many things that was painted growing up, and I realized that it's not even true. Maybe at some point it was, but definitely not in 2026 at all.
Pays £31 per month on her student loans. £31. In America, the median monthly payment is $393. But it gets better. If Sarah becomes a teacher, works for a charity, or takes certain public sector jobs, she can get additional loan forgiveness. The system is designed to encourage public service, not punish it. In America, higher education has become a luxury good, accessible mainly to the wealthy or to those willing to mortgage their futures. The American dream of each generation doing better than the last, the data shows that it's dying. Britain's approach to education funding represents a fundamentally different philosophy. Education is treated as a public good, an investment in society's future, not a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder. There's labor law, and this is where differences become almost comical. In America, workers have virtually no protection against arbitrary dismissal. Most states have at-will employment, meaning you can be fired for any reason or no reason at all, as long as it's not discriminatory, but good luck proving discrimination. In Britain, I discovered something called employment rights. After 2 years of employment, you can't be fired without just cause and proper procedure. If you're laid off, you get statutory redundancy pay. If you're fired unfairly, you can take your employer to an employment tribunal. But the real revolution was around work-life balance. In America, I was accustomed to the toxic hustle culture, the idea that working 60-hour weeks was normal and that checking emails at midnight was dedication. American workers get an average of 10 vacation days per year, and 23% don't use them all because of workplace pressure. In Britain, if I were to be traditionally employed, I would get 28 days of paid holiday per year. That's more than 5 weeks. This isn't even generous by European standards, it's the legal minimum. And here's the crucial part, there's actual social pressure to take your holidays. Managers ask if you've booked your break. The company tracks unused holiday time and actively encourages you to use it. Then there's parental leave. In America, there's no federal...
And I know exactly what she's saying there, because I've heard someone say that working in America, when they take days off, sometimes they feel guilty because you're taking days off that they deserve. I mean, it's the vacation, but it's almost like the workplace, makes you feel like you're doing something that you're not supposed to do, and almost like guilt trip you into feeling sad and feeling bad about actually wanting vacation and not staying. And it's just crazy, man.
You to use it. Then there's parental leave. In America, there's no federal requirement for paid maternity leave. 0. The United States is only one of 3 countries in the world without guaranteed paid maternity leave. American mothers often have to choose between bonding with their newborn and paying rent. In Britain, new mothers get up to 52 weeks of maternity leave with 39 weeks paid. Fathers get 2 weeks of paid paternity leave plus the option to share the mother's leave. This isn't just about individual families benefiting. It's about what kind of society is valued. Do we believe that raising children is important enough to support? Do we think parents should have to choose between children and economic survival? Now let's talk about Social Security, and the real kind, not the retirement program Americans call Social Security. In Britain, there's something called universal credit, which provides a basic income floor for anyone who needs it. Is it generous? No. Is it perfect? Absolutely not, but it exists. If I lost my job tomorrow in Britain, I wouldn't immediately face homelessness. There's a system designed to catch people when they fall. Housing benefits helps with rent. Council tax reduction helps with local taxes. The NHS means that I wouldn't lose healthcare coverage. Job seekers allowance provides basic income while I look for work. Compare this to America, where unemployment benefits vary wildly by state. They typically last only 26 weeks and replace only a fraction of lost income. American workers live in constant fear of the economic cliff. One job loss away from losing healthcare, losing their home, destroying their credit. This isn't freedom, it's economic anxiety. The American narrative says that social safety nets create dependence and reduce freedom, but the British experience suggests the opposite. When people aren't terrified of economic catastrophe, they can take more risks. They can start businesses and change careers and invest in education. But it's not just the big systemic differences either. It's about the small daily freedoms that Americans don't even realize they're missing. Take public transportation. In London, I can get anywhere in the city using buses, trains, and the underground. The system runs 24 hours on weekends. It's reliable and connects many neighborhoods. This means freedom from car dependency, freedom from car payments, insurance, maintenance, and parking fees. It means being able to read on my commute instead of stressing in traffic. American cities were designed around cars, creating a form of economic reliance. If you can't afford a car, you can't access jobs, healthcare, education, or services. Transportation poverty is a real thing, and it affects 19 million Americans who can't afford a car but live in areas with inadequate public transit. In Britain, public transportation is treated as a public service, not a business. Or take consumer protection. In America,
Yeah, the way the landscape is in America, especially depends on where you live. If you don't have a vehicle, man, it's like a living nightmare because you're gonna be stuck. Sometimes the places are so far apart. I mean, I hear people commute to work in America, people that I know, and 2 hours away from where they stay. Without a vehicle, man, you cooked. You cooked. And you better pray that if they have transportation, you better make sure that you're always on time. So that's another hurdle. So it's not as easy as people think if you don't have transportation up in those countries, like specifically America, like she's saying.
Corporations have convinced us that we need to read the fine print on everything, that it's our responsibility to fully protect ourselves from predatory practices. In Britain, there are stronger regulations about misleading advertising, unfair contract terms, and consumer rights. When I buy something, I have a legal right to return it if it doesn't work as advertised. Airlines can't just cancel my flight and offer me a voucher. They owe me cash compensation. And banking is another revelation. In America, banks charge fees for everything. Monthly account maintenance, using ATMs, overdrafts. Many Americans can't even afford the minimum balances or fees. In Britain, basic banking mostly has no monthly fees. ATMs are again mostly free to use. Overdraft fees are capped by law. These might seem like small things, but they add up to a fundamentally different relationship between citizens here and the systems that govern their lives. In America, those systems often feel designed to extract maximum profit from vulnerable people. In Britain, there's at least an attempt to balance profit with public good. Now, Americans love to talk about economic freedom, usually measured by things like tax rates and business regulations. The Heritage Foundation publishes an annual index of economic freedom that consistently ranks the US higher than the UK. But this index measures the freedom of capital, not the freedom of people. Real economic freedom means having genuine choice about how to live your life. It means not being trapped in a job you hate because you need health insurance. It means being able to start a business without risking medical bankruptcy. It means being able to get an education without crushing debt. By these measures, Britain offers more economic freedom than America, despite higher tax rates and more regulation. Regulation isn't designed to suppress freedom. It's designed to ensure that markets work for people, not just shareholders. Then there's political freedom, the ability to participate in democracy. In America, voter suppression is a deliberate and talked about strategy. Polling places are closed in poor neighborhoods. Voter ID laws are designed to exclude certain population. Gerrymandering allows politicians to choose their voters instead of voters choosing their politicians. The Electoral College means that some votes in some states count more than others. In Britain, every citizen over 18 can vote. Period. Elections are run by independent civil servants, not partisan officials, and political parties can't draw their own district boundaries. There are strict limits on campaign spending. The BBC provides public media that, while imperfect, attempts to inform rather than inflame. The result is higher voter turnout, greater trust in democratic institutions, and politics that, while are still messy, are more focused on actual governance. And perhaps the starkest difference is the baseline level of fear that shapes daily life in America versus Britain. In America, fear is a constant companion. Fear of bankruptcy.
Yeah, there's a fear in America in every aspect of life in America. I mean, just some of the terms that they use for certain things. You got the war on drugs, you know, war on this, war on that. They always those terms, those trigger terms that just put the people in constant fear. Whatever you think about what's going on in America, it's just danger. Even if that's not the reality, but when you hear some of the things going on in the political arena, and let's look at the news. Even if you could barely hear or barely see or barely read, you know that there's some form of fear in all aspects. So it's almost like you're always on the edge, even if you're not living there, but you're on the edge, just hanging about things that are going on there. So everything just looks strategic if you have that kind of foresight and understanding. It doesn't seem normal. Yeah, so that's what she's saying there, and she's spot on about that.
Fear of losing your job, fear of gun violence in schools, fear of falling through the cracks. Americans have internalized this fear so completely that we don't even recognize it anymore. We call it personal responsibility or freedom or the price of liberty. But is it just fear dressed up in patriotic language? In Britain, that fear is largely absent. I don't worry about medical bankruptcy, I don't worry about losing healthcare, and I don't worry about police interactions. This isn't because Britain is perfect. It has its own problems, but the basic social contract is different. The government's role is to protect and provide for its citizens, not just to protect property and enforce contracts. The absence of fear is liberating in ways that are hard to describe. It changes how you think about the future, how you make decisions, and how you relate to other people when you're not in constant survival mode. Political philosophers distinguish between negative liberty, freedom from constraints, and positive liberty, freedom to achieve your potential. American political discourse is obsessed with negative liberty, freedom from taxes, freedom from regulation, freedom from government. But negative liberty without positive liberty as well doesn't work. What good is the freedom to start a business if you can't afford to leave your job because you need health insurance? What good is the freedom to get an education if you can't afford tuition? Britain's approach emphasizes positive liberty, creating the conditions that allow people to actually exercise their freedoms. Higher taxes fund public services that expand real choices and opportunities. Regulation protects workers and consumers from exploitation. This isn't socialism or communism or whatever word American politicians use. Most of the British economy is privately owned and market-driven, but there's a recognition that markets need boundaries, that capitalism needs guardrails, and freedom requires more than just the absence of government.
Perfect assessment she did right there. She always does a great job in doing those kind of videos. And everything she said was spot on. America is a fear-driven country, just based on the way that they go about it. And I'm talking about the political sphere. Everyone is in constant fear, even if people are doing all right, an individual is doing all right in terms of like financially, but he's always concerned about dropping the ball. So he's always on the edge, even if he's covered everything he has to cover for that period of time. But he knows that things can suddenly change based on the political atmosphere in America. So that's a good observation by her. Many people might not see that, but it's a fear-driven country without a doubt. And when you look at the news, I mean, I'm not even there, and sometimes I'm always on the edge when I'm hearing about certain things. And I'm not even talking about the obvious things with the gun violence and the British system, which I did not know. The British system sounds like the American dream. He actually stated that at the start, but I didn't really understand where she was going. But everything that she stated there, it's crazy to think that it's not even in America that is. It's in England. I wouldn't consider you have freedom in America based on what she said there. Because freedom, yes, even if you have higher taxes, but the taxes are not really going certain places where it could expand options for the citizens. What good is it then? What good is it? Higher taxes, and it's still not providing many options because you're afraid to do this because you're going to lose this. So it's almost like you're trapped. It's almost like you're in a minefield. You can see all the options, but it's almost like you better not, because you're gonna suffer on the other end. So it doesn't really encourage. It's not an encouraging, I would say, society in order to try to do or get out from the rat race. You're gonna be living in constant fear, because if it doesn't work out, you're gonna suffer the consequences. Like, there's no safety net, like she says, compared to the British system. And if you have more safety net, then there's much more incentive to take chances, because you know, if you fail, there's an entity that can help you get back on your feet. But in America's society, if you make that mistake, you might never get out from it. If you want to see that long drawn outro that I do, hit more Dice Reacts where I do music reactions. This is where I'm going to be making my exit. So until next time, peace out.